What's up, Drop Pod listeners? You can check out new episodes of the Drop Podcast every Tuesday and Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. Follow and listen along.
This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Poro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
Happy Thursday, Drop Pod people. Welcome back to our interview episode. Interview Thursdays coming at you. We have a very exciting guest this week. Today's guest is the head golf pro at Pine Barrens Golf Club, Bryan DeMarco. If you don't know who Bryan DeMarco is, that's fine. He's a very humble guy, but you are going to be blown away by this guy's story. He is the 2021 Deacon Palmer Award winner. We talked about him a little bit on Tuesday's episode. He has just an absolutely tremendous background. This guy has been surviving for the last 20 years. Maybe more, is the best way to describe him. An unbelievable human being, a kind human being, an incredible fighter, and just an amazing man. Really, Mike. I don't really know how else to describe him. He's got a tremendous story. I think you guys are really going to be blown away by this, and I'm very happy to shed light on everything that he has done in the golf world and everything that he represents, for lack of a better term.
Listen, no doubt. And I think obviously you and I are always trying to highlight things golfing in the Garden State. And when you hear Bryan's story outside the interview, it's like, okay, this is a no-brainer to get this guy on to highlight this, because what he shares are very intimate details of things that he has gone through, he has overcome, he's battled through. And I think this story is going to be one of the top 5 stories of interviewees sharing. Mm-hmm. So it's a must listen. You got to listen to it and enjoy it.
Yeah, no doubt. So we're not going to hold you up anymore. We're going to send you right now to our interview with Bryan DeMarco. Hope you enjoy it. Cheers.
George Wall Ford in Red Bank, New Jersey is family owned and operated, proudly serving New Jersey residents with superior customer service since 1960. Rye, share your story about your experience there.
Mike, I went on a tangent in one of our episodes previously about it, but I can't say enough good things about George Wall Ford. I needed a new car. I had an old. I loved the brand that I had. I loved, it was an SUV, but had 165,000 miles on it. It was just time, So I hopped on over to George Wall Ford. I saw our guy, Jerry, and Jerry and his team were awesome. I mean, from stem to stern, they're there, they're helping, they're knowledgeable. They have so many cars on the lot that you can go in and say, hey, I want a sunroof, a navigation. I want this kind of rims on it. I want this kind of this, that, and the other thing. There's a great chance that they have that car with all your specs, the color, all that thing. Me, I didn't particularly care. I was like, hey, I want to be high up in the car, right? I need an SUV. I'm a big guy. I got a dog. I got golf clubs. I got beach chairs in the summer. I need something that's a little more rugged, a little more. Again, I like to be higher in my car. And I went and saw Jerry. He pointed me in the right direction. And again, it's awesome to have that kind of help and support from your salesman to the finance guy to even they got somebody who helps you set up your car, right? I got an app on my phone now that's got my auto start on it. I can locate my car if I don't know where it is. I could take a trip to Japan if I wanted to and be like, did I lock my car? And I can go into the app and lock my car. So even people helping you set up that stuff, just the hands-on approach over there is incredible. So if you need a car, head on over to George Wall. And go ask for Jerry. They were awesome there. Again, stem to stern from everybody. I can't say enough good things about it. It was an unbelievable experience.
So to Ryan's point, there isn't a better place to shop for a brand new car. Just call 732-704-1932 and ask for Jeremy Wall. George Wall Ford in Red Bank for all your car buying needs. All right. So today's guest, I know we've had a lot of people on this show and they've shared a lot of different stories and unique experiences. But I think today, as I'll steal a quote from one of our other guests, is one for the ages. Um, the guest today is the head golf professional at Pine Barrens Golf Club. He's the 2021 PGA National Deacon Palmer Award recipient. Today's guest is Bryan DeMarco. Bryan, thank you so much for coming on today's show.
Thank you, guys. Great having me.
Listen, Bryan, I mean, I know we've kind of played, back and forth tag with getting you on and finding dates at work and whatnot. But before I dive into everything, because I think your story is unbelievable in so many ways about what you've overcome, what you've dealt with, what you've overcome again, and, the trials and tribulations you talk about adversity, like you have basically mastered that. Why don't you give the audience a little bit of background about you, how you got into this game? I know your dad was a big, big impact in your life. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I grew up in the golf business. My father was a longtime member of the PGA of America. He was a head professional for almost pretty much 35 years at two different clubs, one in eastern Pennsylvania and then one in South Jersey. And then he retired. But growing up in the business, I was growing up in a country club environment. Basically seeing everything from the inside out, seeing how the pros operate and everything. And it was a great experience. And eventually, that turned into a passion for golf. And he never pushed me to play all the time. He just made equipment available. Never forced anything on me. He just kind of made me want to play it myself, which I did eventually, and got pretty serious about it in high school. And finally started deciding, hey, maybe there might be something that I do with this long term for a career. And I did take a interest in agronomy, and that ended up eventually decided to go to college. Went to Penn State initially for agronomy. Um, that was at the start. Then some things happened during my time at Penn State where I eventually changed and got out of agronomy. But for the initial part of my time in going into this business, I was going to be on the superintendent side, or at least had hopes of doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Where was Dad? What clubs was Dad at, and where was high school? Were you in South Jersey at that point,
Yeah,
or
no. So Dad was at he was at Reading Country Club in the 70s and 80s in Pennsylvania, and midway through the probably I think 85 or 86, he left there. They sold it, and he went down. He found himself at a very small private club called the Links Golf Club in South Jersey, down in Marlton,
okay?
and it was a great little spot. He spent almost 20 years there, and then he finally retired. But I grew up in eastern Pennsylvania, went to high school there.
Gotcha. Is the link still there? I've never heard of it.
I don't know. It's a lot of things happened when he was there. It was privately owned, one owner. She pumped a bunch of money into it, kind of ran it in a special way. When she passed away, it forced his hand to retirement, and I think it's been in a couple different people's hands since. I'm not sure if it's even still there.
Gotcha.
It is still there.
Okay.
It is. It's. I as you say it, I type it in, and it's a semi-private golf course that still is there in Marlton. So,
Yeah, we
yeah,
packed up his office and we left there in 2002, and that was the last time we saw it.
Never back again.
that's crazy. And then obviously, Bryan, how does it end up at Pine Barrens? So obviously, as you're going throughout your career and whatnot, like, how do you end up in a spot where you are for so long?
Well, from superintendent to golf pro, even.
Well,
Yeah.
so shortly into my time at Penn State, I have a lot of friends that are superintendents, and they're good ones. And I noticed a passion with them that I did not have with growing grass. And my friends that are superintendents, they really know their stuff. And so I basically said, I don't have this same kind of commitment and passion to this. And I also, as I was going through Penn State, I was taking more and more of an interest in the business side of golf and teaching and instruction. And that's when it started to become clearer that, hey, maybe I want to become a PGA professional and go down that route. And so I eventually changed majors, got out of the agronomy major at Penn State. And after I graduated college, I was working locally at a little private club. And I said to myself, I'm like, what am I doing here? And I started looking for some jobs. And sure enough, beginning of 2004, I was looking for a job, and something popped open in New Jersey. One of my sales reps led me onto it. And there was an opening at Deal Golf and Country Club working for a pro named Jason Lamp. And I ended up going down there and working for Jason. And that was a 10-year stint at Deal working for Jason. Jason ended up becoming one of my greatest friends that I have.
Wow.
After that, the head pro job opened at Pine Barrens in 2014. I applied for it. I think I might have been the last applicant to put his credentials in for it. And so then after that, I was offered the job at Pine Barrens, and here I am.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild to have you and Lampy in the same pro shop is pretty. Those are two big names in one little pro shop there.
There are some stories.
And Lampy's a great player too. Lampy's a great player.
Jason is one of the best. He is in all facets. I would credit my father and him as being my two mentors in this business, and Jason is definitely one of the best. He's a great friend and a great pro.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't realize that you were at Deal then. That's
Yep. 10 years, lots of memories. Some of those stories might still be classified, but
okay. we'll have to go to Lamp for the lock and key there.
We've had some good times, that's for sure.
And then obviously you had to be right around Pine Barrens, it all opening, it all starting, the whole nine of that place really kind of evolving. No, when did Pine Barrens actually open itself?
So Pine Barrens opened in 1999.
Oh, it's been around that long, huh?
Yes, they opened in 1999 as a semi-private facility. They started to transition mid-2000s into a fully private facility, and then the job opened at the end of 2013, and that's when I applied for the head pro job.
Are you the second pro there, or was there like in the line from 99 to 13? Was there?
There's been a couple. There
Okay.
have been a couple, yes. Yeah, there's been a couple pros, it's a good spot. It's a nice little. It doesn't have all the country club amenities that you find at a lot of the old school clubs in New Jersey. What I tell everybody is, if you're looking for a place, it is strictly a golf club. We've got a great practice facility and a great golf course.
Yeah, I think the golf course, I obviously have playing it many, many times. It is a very challenging golf course. And the one thing I think that's really cool about that spot is there are so many different tee boxes that you can really decide where you want to play. Like if you're in a mood to challenge yourself, you can go all the way back to the tips and play. And it's a very long golf course. And from what I remember, it's always been on the softer side. So it's a lot of carries, and it's a lot of carries over waist areas as well. So if you want to challenge your game, those back tees, it's no joke from back there.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, we can stretch it out pretty, it says pretty far. And yes, it has been soft. I will say, Kevin Reese, our golf course superintendent, he's been doing a great job the past years that he's been there, and it's starting to firm up. And it's definitely he's done some tree work, which has helped with some airflow, and the course conditions have firmed up. All this rain hasn't been helping, but it's been good.
Yeah.
As someone who has never been there, I'm a little interested to hear, like, there's no. You mean it's just golf? There's no like racquetball or pickleball or anything like that, but it does have like, it's got like the locker rooms, dinner, all that kind of stuff, right?
It has locker rooms.
Like when you say traditional country club.
We don't do dinners during the week. It's not a banquet facility, things like that. Weddings, we don't do weddings.
Okay.
It's basically, practice facility, golf course, pub food, and we try to do a good job with that.
Yeah.
Those key components, and the golf members that we have, they love it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ryan, to be honest with you, you would love I guess, the pro shop, the locker room, the whole building itself, it's like this nice wooden logs. Like it is like a very, very cool, optically pleasing thing. When you
Yeah.
walk up there, it is like, wow, that's really cool. And they got the nice little barn where all the carts go in, and all the guys are out there, getting you started to where you go out to the first tee. It's a cool walk from the car, and then you see this big
See this
big
like log cabin?
log cabin. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is.
Oh, cool.
It's a cool spot.
It's
And
different, that's for sure.
yeah, it's not your prototypical like big like this like I think about different pro shops and the clubhouses like this, but this has its own uniqueness to it because to some aspects, right, Brian? It's like it's in the woods.
Yeah.
It's in the woods, so it kind of fits the mold in terms of what you're looking for.
Yeah, and most of the old, I think most people will agree with me. A lot of the older traditional, the courses that we love in New Jersey, a lot of them tend to be on the smaller side. They're landlocked. They tend to be, the holes are on top of each other. Pine Barrens, when it was built, it was built on 450 acres, I believe, and so we're spread out, and you're playing out there, and basically you're on each hole, and you can't really see another hole. So it's very few times where, so the golf course itself is very spread out.
Yeah. I love that. That's like the one time I got to play Matita Conch, I was standing in the middle of fairway, and the same I'm is it similar is what I'm asking, I guess, is like I'm in the middle and I was like, I can't see another person other than the people in my group. You can't hear highway, you can't you hear birds. You don't see another golf hole because it's just so densely wooded. Same like similar.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I think it's a nice little fun golf course. It 100% is, and it's challenging to every aspect.
Mhm.
But I think the one thing, Brian, that you and I had talked to leading up to today was your backstory in terms of what you've overcome. And when I watched the video that you sent and I was going through that thing, I was blown away that not only did cancer come once, it came twice, and then the third time it came again, and it was like, holy hell, like it, but then every time you overcame it, like talk a little bit about that experience that kind of like led you to the award that you were received for the National Deacon Palmer Award. Like talk a little bit about that story and like things that you had to overcome personally to kind of sit where you are still today.
Yeah, it's been a journey. It's been a long road.
Yeah.
It's funny when I was named the award winner. I'm a very humble person, and I don't talk about a lot of this stuff easily, or I haven't in the past. And somebody close to me said, "Look, it's time to drop the humble. Like, you've achieved a national award. It's time, drop the humble for a little bit." And so it's been a long journey. I was first diagnosed with cancer when I was 21. And so I was at Penn State, and this kind of coincided. The first cancer battle coincided with me changing my major and kind of getting out of agronomy up there. And I was up at school, and I noticed a lump in my groin, and I will admit it. The lump had been there for a little while. Hadn't paid attention to it. That is the first no. If I can say anything. If you've got a lump that's suspicious, get it checked out. But anyways, so I had not paid attention to this lump for a little while. And it got to the point where it was so painful that I couldn't walk. And so I ended up going home, which was about 2 hours, and went home to my hometown, saw my doctor. And he looked at me and he said, "Look, if it's painful," he said, "chances are it's not something serious like cancer. You probably have an infection or something, but we want you to go to a specialist anyways, just to be sure." And I'm like, okay. So 2 days later, I went to see this specialist, and I walked in, and here I am, 21 years old, and I walk in and see this guy. He spent about 2 minutes with me, and he looked at me and he said, "Look," he said, 99%, 100% chance this has to come out through surgery, and 99% chance it's cancer. And when you're 21, that's like, what? And so anyways, I had surgery 2 days later. So it was pretty quickly. The following day I had pre-op testing, and 2 days later had surgery. They removed the tumor, and then at that time they noticed that there were additional tumors in my abdomen. So this cancer had spread. So at that time, I went through 3 cycles of chemotherapy. And for testicular cancer, they give you a pretty aggressive form of chemotherapy because they know they're giving it to young males and they can handle the stresses. So I had 3 rounds of chemotherapy, and after those 3 rounds, I was deemed to be back into remission, but they were still watching these other tumors. And shortly thereafter, these tumors started growing. And so they had to go in through surgery and remove them. So I had some abdominal surgery, and they opened me up and took these tumors out. And that was good. So we thought. And, went back to school, finished up my time at Penn State, graduated, and went down, like I said, and previously went to Deal for 10 years. Was good, doing great, and took the job at Pine Barrens in 2014. Started up everything there with my head pro career. And in 2016, a very familiar lump in my groin was there. And I said in the video, it's like, you sit in the back of your head and you're like, no, this can't be.
Yeah.
And so I saw my doctor, my local doctor here, and immediately he was like, I don't like the look of this. And so right then and there, it was calling Sloan Kettering up in New York City and getting an appointment. I went back up there, and doctor looked at me and said, yeah, you've had a recurrence. And so I think there's 1 or 2% of testicular cancer patients that have a recurrence of their cancer. It's very unlikely after 15 years. But I did.
Jesus.
Yeah, and, it was very aggressive. So I had surgery pretty quickly after that diagnosis to remove the tumor. And at that time, they also noted that there were 4 tumors that were in my abdomen. So the cancer had spread again. And at that time, the lovely thing about testicular cancer is after you go through it once, if you have the unfortunate luck of getting it a second time, they have to give you some very, very strong chemotherapy drugs because your body gets acclimated to the drugs that were used the first go around. So I had some very aggressive drugs during my second set of cycles. I had 4 cycles of this, and each cycle consisted of being admitted to the hospital up at Sloan Kettering, and I would be there for a week, get the chemotherapy drugs. On the last day, I would be discharged, and I would get a shot of Neulasta, which is to help your white blood cells regenerate. And then I would have 2 weeks off, during which I would have platelet infusions and blood infusions, and they would check my blood and everything. And then hopefully allow me to recover. And then after those 2 weeks were up, I'd be back up to Sloan Kettering for another cycle.
Oh my gosh.
4 cycles of that. And after that, it was noted through a PET scan that those 4 tumors in my abdomen were basically zapped, killed. There was no activity in them. And my doctor said, look, since the tumors are still there, but they're not active, you're in partial remission. And that's what he kept doing under surveillance. He kept saying partial remission. And it was great. You go back to living your normal life. And at the end of 2021, I was taking a group. We have an annual group of members I take down to Kiowa Island, one of our golf trips. So we're down there. First night, I got a phone call. And I had some of my tests, my follow-up tests recently. And so I got a phone call, and I'm like, who is this? And I pick up the phone, and it's my doctor's office. And we were just sitting down for dinner, and they're telling me, they're like, something doesn't look good on the most recent scan. We need you to come back for a biopsy. And I was like, what? And they said, yeah, one of these tumors has started growing. And I'm like, oh, all right, great. And so I was like, I'll come back after I finish this trip. And so after the trip, I went back up, had a biopsy. That confirmed that this one tumor was active again. They don't know how, but it was active. And my doctors had to devise a pretty complex surgery to go in and get this. The original, when I had this in 2016, they did not want to go get these tumors because of their location. They said any risk to go in and get them far outweighed any benefit of removing them. So, but now at this time, this one tumor was active, so they had to get it out. So by the time I had the surgery in January of 22, This tumor had grown to a size of about 10 centimeters, which is pretty large. And according to my surgeon, in his words, it was a very delicate procedure because of the potential for life-threatening blood loss, because this tumor had attached itself to my aorta, and it was sitting attached to my aorta between the aorta and the kidney. So he said on top of being on the aorta, it was attached to the kidney, and the kidney was gone because the tumor had enveloped the kidney. So I was like, okay, so you go into the surgery, and I'm kind of like, am I even waking up from this? Who knows? Right. So I had the surgery in 22, and January of 22, and surgery was, I believe it was 7 hours long. And I woke up in the recovery room, and I remember looking at my nurse, and I said, well, I'm here. That's one thing. And she smiled. She's like, you did great. And I said, how many kidneys do I have? And she held up 2 fingers. And I said, how about that? And she looked at me and she said, you had the best surgeon for this surgery. And I said, oh, I know. And I clicked my pain meds, and I went back to sleep, and that was that. So, but it was pretty interesting because during the awards presentation for the Deacon Palmer Award at the PGA National Awards ceremony, they part of the film that the PGA did, and they did a great job with it. Part of the film, they interviewed one of my doctors. He's my hero, my oncologist. And so anyways, his quote in the video was that after this surgery, I was deemed back in remission. And it was the first time I had ever heard him say remission. I had not seen the video until that actual award ceremony. So I'm sitting there and I was like, what? What did he just say? Like, he didn't say partial remission, he said remission. And so that was an incredible feeling for sure.
Brian, I'm sitting here listening to this story, and I'm exhausted listening to all that you've been through and No, not at all. And I can only imagine being you. Like, there's so much there to unpack from when you're 21 to now. It's just, holy cow! Like, it's got to be. It's amazing. You're a miracle. You really are. That's a wild. Again, to continue to fight like that is, I'm blown away. I really am.
Like I said, all my peers will agree. I'm pretty unassuming, pretty humble, and to have so many people call you an inspiration. I've ended up talking to some people that have been going through similar situations or other forms of cancer, and to have people call you an inspiration or anything along those lines, it's extremely humbling. It's an extreme honor. I look back and I do admit, yes, it's I've gone through some stuff, that's for sure. But it's been an experience. It's made me who I am. It's given me this positive outlook on basically everything that I do, how I approach things. I have a never quit attitude with everything that I do in life. So I try to draw all the positive aspects from such a negative experience and turn them into good things.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
you're a superhero. That's what you are. You're a superhero.
And that's what I think. One of the things you said it, and I was about to get into it, is the way that you have remained so positive with your outlook and your approach on everything is something I feel like a lot of us in life can learn from. Because when people talk about like their problems they have or things that they have going on, it's always easy to think it's the biggest thing in the world, that your world's going to crumble down. And in reality, it's really not. Like, everybody's going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be fine. Everything's going to be okay. For someone like you that battled through it, not once, not twice, but 3 times, I think just speaks to how are you able to remain so positive and not start, going down that negative Nancy road of like, holy hell, like this can't happen again. Like, life sucks. Like, what's going on? Like, how through all that are you able to sit here, have a huge smile on your face and be like, yeah, listen, cancer came. I not only beat it once, I beat it twice, and I knocked the shit out of it the 3rd time.
Right.
Like, how do you do that?
He's dropping Jay-Z lines. I came, I saw, I conquered, from record sales to sold out concerts.
I love it. You know what? I think it goes back to, I guess I've generally always been a pretty positive person, but it goes back to when I first had cancer, when I was diagnosed when I was 21. And I mean, when you're 21, you're told you have cancer, like, your head is spinning. I mean, like, a normal 21-year-old, you're on top of the world. and you feel invincible. There's nothing that has happened to you to that point for most people that is going to knock you off that top rung where you feel like that. And all of a sudden you get told, yeah, you have cancer, and it knocks you down bad. And so I think that first night when I went home and I was sitting there thinking about surgery and everything, it was going through the back of my mind. I was like, all right, how am I going to handle all this? And in the back of my mind, I said, what is the worst thing that could happen? And you're fighting cancer, obviously the worst thing that happens is you die. And so I came to grips with dying. And I wasn't saying that I'm thinking I was going to die. I had great doctors. I knew that they were going to take good care of me, but that was the worst thing. And for a lot of people, before testicular cancer was really researched, it was one of the worst cancers to get because of how fast it spread and how aggressive it was. And because of treatment, it's now become highly treatable. But so anyways, in the back of my mind, it was like, all right, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to die. And I convinced myself I'm not afraid of dying. And so from that came, that positive outlook, like, all right, if I'm not afraid of dying, then we can handle this. We can fight this. And that's how I approached the first battle. And then when I got it again, it was like, all right, I got this. We do what we have to do, and we fight this. And same thing when the third time when I was told that, I had to have surgery and, that crazy surgery. And I was sitting there in my doctor's office and I said, whatever we have to do, let's do it. So that was that.
That's crazy.
Just kept that outlook ever since.
Bryan,
I'm jealous. I mean, I have never gone through anything like that, knock on wood, in my life. And the minute one little thing, I get a scratch or a boo-boo on my hand, it's like life is over. I'm going to die. This is over. And for someone like you, I need to borrow a little bit of that.
Well, it's important I've always kept things in perspective, and you look around and there's one thing, you never know what somebody else is going through. And some people,
phrase.
It might be the most minute thing that they're going through that gives them the most amount of grief. And for other people, they might be fighting cancer, or they might have something even more serious going on in their life, and you might not even know it. And it's all about how we handle those things. But, I always think like, there's always somebody that's going through something worse than I am. And, so I just always kind of approached it as I can handle what's been thrown at me. So let's handle it.
Yeah. Bryan, I'm not going to try to compare my story to yours, but I had a little bout with skin cancer a couple years ago. And I wear long sleeves now for that reason and all that kind of stuff. But I never did I get to the point where like, okay, the worst thing that could happen is I could die from this. It wasn't, I'm not saying skin cancer is nothing, but it's also not as serious as testicular cancer. So, but I did want to ask you and I don't want to sound like I'm knocking you, but waiting so long the first time, did that cause other issues? Like if we were to tell people like, hey, if you see a lump, go get it fixed right away.
Yeah. Well, I will say it wasn't, I just had a lump there and I didn't get it checked immediately, but I didn't wait an extended period of time. I will say.
Okay.
But even though like I should have gotten it checked like immediately, I just didn't think anything of it. It was like, I just, felt a little bump there. It was like, oh, all right.
Mm-hmm.
But, regardless, like, if there's a strange bump anywhere on your body, get it checked out.
Yeah.
Right away. Don't take any time. But like I said, it wasn't an extended period of time that I had waited. But
okay,
God forbid, who knows at that point. But,
I was just wondering when you said it got to the point of like being painful, and then you went and got checked out. I didn't know if that had you done it earlier. Does that prevent the abdomen and it's spreading? And I didn't know if that was. Are they connected in that way, or are they?
It was one of those things where it was like I felt it and knew it was there, and it was like, oh, all right, I should go get that looked at some point. And literally, like a couple days later, it was getting painful. I'm like, what is this? Like, what's going on here? So, and then that kind of was the impetus. Like, all right, we got to get this checked out.
And as a 21-year-old, you're like, oh, I should probably get that looked at. All right, I'll order 2 Bud Lights, order a nachos, and it's just like you're not really thinking about things like
all
that.
Of a sudden it's on the back burner.
Yep, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bryan,
get everything
it's crazy. It's absolutely insane. But And I think when I was watching one of the part of the video, it said part of the therapy for you was, you know, getting golf clubs fitted, grinding them out. I saw the videos where you're basically in the shop, basically putting them all together from nuts and bolts all the way through. And I guess a curiosity thing from my end, as I know your Instagram handle isn't just typically your name, like a lot of people's are. Is that part of the reason why the handle is Custom Works, because you enjoy like building things and the therapy side helped you so much get through what you did?
Yeah, so when I was at Deal, we started, we were doing a lot of club fitting, and we started doing a lot of club customization and club repair. And Jason was my guinea pig. I started customizing his clubs. He was playing a lot of golf, and so I asked him what he wanted, and he wanted some red ferrules and red paint fill and certain shafts, and so I started building clubs. And I always had a passion. I would tinker with equipment and always looking to kind of improve things and whatnot. And I've always had an interest in the equipment side and shaft technology and stuff like that. And it kind of snowballed, and I started doing some more extensive club repair while I was at Deal. And some of the local clubs, some of the guys were coming to me, the people in the area, they would come to me and for either club repair or aftermarket shafts and things like that. And I just kept it going when I went to Pine Barrens. And I definitely we do a lot of club fitting there. We've been on Golf Digest's top 100 club fitters in golf list for the past few years. A lot of aftermarket shaft installs, things like that. Basic club repair as well, but my real passion is like the aftermarket stuff and maximizing somebody's performance on the course. So yes, going back to that, when I was sick, I didn't have a lot of strength to do a lot of things, and guys would call me up. They're like, "Hey, can you grind this wedge? Can you pop this shaft in?" And if I had the strength, I'd be like, "Yeah, bring it over." And I would go down to my workshop and tinker away, do some things, and it was a form of therapy. It helped me get through some days. So that's for sure.
Yeah, everybody needs that when they're going through something. They need
Absolutely.
yeah.
And obviously I had a great support network, family, friends. I have a lot of friends that are PGA professionals in the state of New Jersey, the New Jersey section PGA pros. They are, without a doubt, the best group of guys ever. They're like a group of brothers to me, a little fraternity. But all of them as well, friends, family, and those guys, they help me get through all that stuff.
Yeah, and I guess I got one other question before I like to end with my final question if Ryan has more, but like, how is the golf game these days? Are you able to get out and play like physically? Do you even have the strength to go out and play? Or how about even the mindset of like, you know what, I'm going to grind out, a round today. I'm going to go out there, get this tee in the ground and ball and hole. Like, where is the golf game at?
Well, I'll be the first to say they cut me up pretty good with that last surgery. And
Okay.
So I did not play a lot of golf. I have not been playing a lot of golf. I played a little bit last year, not much at all. Right now, I've played more golf this year so far than I have all of last year. And I've been working hard to get back into golf shape. So I would like to say it's coming around. It's getting back there. I would like to get back to the point where I'm playing on a regular basis, and I'm finally at the point. It's been a while since that cancer battle in 2016, but it's been a very long road for that. But I'm enjoying getting back out on the golf course, and it's been a good thing. So more golf this year, and just keeps going.
Yeah, listen, I kind of was wondering where that was all going to play a role in it, because obviously I know your health and everything comes first and foremost, and I was kind of curious, like, knowing all these surgeries and knowing how much you've been under the knife per se, like I kind of was wondering where the golf playing aspect, because obviously you can still teach, you can still, if you have the strength, you can still grind out the wedges and put clubs together.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side of it is we all like to put the tee in the ground and go play. And
Absolutely.
I was kind of curious, if you were still able to, but that's good. You're out there teeing it up, man. Listen, that's always a plus, regardless of what you shoot.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to be shooting with back to where I'm used to it. So, but I've been practicing, I've been playing, been working on my game. So Eventually it'll get back there. Just got to put in some work.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
doubt.
it's
No
amazing
doubt.
how long those things can take to get back. To get to where you used to be. And it's again, it's a miracle that you're upright, and then even to go back to playing golf is something I think that anyone listening to this would be hopeful for you. So keep that up.
It's
And
yeah.
Brian,
I'm happy just to be back out on the golf course. It's funny when my father said to me after my first battle of cancer, he said to me when I was back to playing, he said, "It makes looking at those 5-footers a little different, huh?" And I said, "Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore." And puts things in perspective. But I'm happy to just be out on the golf course, so it's good.
Yeah. You'll find your game. I know Ryan's still looking for his. I don't know if he'll ever find it, but I know you will eventually
Doubtful.
find yours. Because we're still searching for his. But I will say this, Brian, like one of the questions I always like to kind of like put a bow on this because, I think your story carries so much weight
Mike,
in not.
before we
Go
get
ahead,
to your
Ryan.
last question, I got one more question for you.
Okay. Fire away.
Yeah, but I do want you to touch upon this, Brian. You do at Pine Barrens. I know you do a really great event, a pro member, I believe it is. I know it sponsors the New Jersey Golf Foundation.
Yes.
Would you talk a little bit about that? What's the name of it? Is there any way people can get involved in it? I know how great of an event it is, but can you speak to that a bit more?
It's a great event. It was started before I was the head pro there, so I've basically just taken the torch and ran with it. It's called our Member Guest Professional Cup. Some people call it MGP Cup for short. And basically, it just pairs a Pine Barrens member who invites a guest, and they're paired up with a New Jersey PGA pro who I invite. It's a pretty large field. We end up playing in obviously those are groups of 3. We end up playing in 6s. So the pros actually pair up and play a pro format as well, like an event inside the event.
And
the pros also play for an individual purse. So they're playing for some money.
Yeah.
And we raise a pretty good amount of money for the New Jersey Golf Foundation, and that takes place every fall. I've kind of staged it. It's obviously a very competitive tournament for the pros. They're playing for money, so it's competitive. But I've also staged it where it's kind of like an end of the season. It's a fun event. It's an exciting event for them. And the guys that play in it, they all have nothing but the greatest things to say. It's just a good time, good way to end things for the season, and it does a good job of generating some money for the New Jersey Golf Foundation, which is a great cause.
Which is and we've talked a bit about the New Jersey Golf Foundation in the past with some of our other guests. So that's tremendous.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Right, to your point, that's a good bring up there because I know that we've touched base with Brian about this. We've talked to Chris Hunt about this. We've talked to many different pros in the state who have said that this event is one of the ones that they have circled on their calendar, and it's cleaned out that they are going to this. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, it's great. I'd like to say that the pros that are there, they're all my friends, and they all have a great time, and that is my goal of it to bring them down. And it obviously it does a good job in generating money for the Golf Foundation, but I also like to call it a celebration of the Jersey PGA pros that are playing in it and make it a day for them to enjoy themselves.
Yeah, it's a great thing.
Yeah.
So Rye, you got any others? Because we probably could sit here and take Brian's whole day if you want.
Could certainly pepper you with questions.
The guy wants to go tee it up right now, and we're just bombarding him at early morning here. So, Brian, listen. Obviously, one of the things I always like to pick people's brains about at the very end is like you being a guy who's been fortunate to travel up and down the state and play many different golf courses. If someone were to be invited to a spot, a public spot, a private spot, whatever the case may be, and they had stuff going on, they had to ask for like a hall pass, more or less. Give us one spot that you'd highly recommend that, hey, listen, you got to drop what you're doing. You got to go. You can't count Pine Barrens because it's your home club, and you can't count Pine Valley because the opportunities don't come often there. But do you have another spot you'd highly recommend?
If it wasn't those two, there's so many great golf courses in the state of New Jersey. You could go down a list and just name any whole bunch of them, but Galloway is definitely up there. That spot's special. It's such a great golf course. you can kind of get away from everything there. And, it's a lot of those holes, they're just so beautiful. So I would definitely say Galloway is one of them. But again, there are so many golf courses in the state of New Jersey. I mean, you probably could answer that question probably 20 times and come up with 20 different golf courses, and none of them would be the wrong answer.
No, it's amazing how many different answers we get for that question. Between like, I like that you said Galloway. I mean, maybe a little bit biased, but I do like that you went South Jersey, because you could very easily. I mean, it's easy to say the Plainfields, the Baltustrals, the Ridgewoods, right?
Plainfield, Hollywood. I mean, you could go down a list. There's so many.
But yeah, I like Galloway is a terrific track. Mike and I got to play it last year, and it's a special place, to your point.
Mm-hmm. And conditions are always impeccable. So yeah, it's a great spot.
Bryan, I do, and maybe we've gotten a little bit away from this, but if you think back to when you were playing super competitively, or even now, if when you're starting to get back into it, are there any kind of things that you do that, some people would call superstitions, some people call habits, that you do when you're playing golf? Some, golfers are rather quirky by nature. So what are some things that you, some quirks or habits?
Golfers are quirky, absolutely. We're all superstitious.
Yep.
Ever since I was playing in high school, I mark my golf ball the same way. It's there's one black dot on the golf ball just between the Titleist and the number on it. Okay. I've never marked it differently. It's always had that one black dot. I guess recently it's been the same ball marker, things like that. Okay. Nothing too crazy. There's some things, other than that, that's about it.
We've heard some people don't use they mark their ball with a quarter, but it can't be a quarter after 1972. Things like that are some fun ones that we've had. Yeah.
Or like a Buffalo nickel or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so not too superstitious, but there are a couple little quirky things.
Again, as we all do, I got a certain amount of tees in my pocket. If I don't have that many tees, if I got more, if I got less, I feel like I feel off balance. I feel like my chi is off. Yeah. So we're obviously a golf podcast, but we are a New Jersey podcast as well, and we talk golf in the Garden State. And there's a big debate in New Jersey, and we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you this question. There's a particular kind of breakfast meat in the state of New Jersey. What is the name of that breakfast meat?
To me, it's always been pork roll.
Let's go. Yes, it is.
Well, it's funny. I've always known it as pork roll. It's I haven't known it anything else. And when I was in South Jersey, it was pork roll. Then I came up when I was at Deal. I had people still telling me I was in South Jersey. And I was like, no, I just came from South Jersey. And at Deal, it was still pork roll. So, it's always been pork roll.
Deal is actually in Central Jersey, but
exactly right. But then somebody told me if you're south of the Raritan Bridge, you're in South Jersey, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Right. That's what the people in that's the Taylor ham country calls Central Jersey South. Yes. They don't. Yeah, if they're still calling it Taylor ham, they're not intelligent enough to know that there's a Central Jersey or that it's called pork roll. So it's really, it just goes to.
And then somebody actually presented the fact that it's called Taylor pork roll. So I don't know. That's
you answered it. You answered it correctly. Let's call a spade here. Let's leave it at that. But listen, Bryan, I can't thank you enough for coming on here today, sharing your story. I think it's truly remarkable, and best of luck this season at Pine Barrens, and hopefully we can get together soon.
Guys, you're welcome down there anytime. Please come play. And it's been a great honor to thank you for having me on the show. It's been a great honor.
Yeah, no worries. I'm looking forward to getting out there. Like I said, I've never been, so I'm certainly going to take you up on that.
Bring a lot of golf balls, buddy. Bring a lot of golf balls.
Bring some golf balls. But yes, please do. Would love to have you.
We'll do. Bryan, appreciate you coming on. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you.
Take care.